I remember one time getting the antibiotics while I was having a contraction. But so for me, it was like it would burn.
Oh, yeah.
It was like burning and I was having a contraction. I'm literally getting poked and the thing is burning and I'm having a contraction right now.
Hi, I'm Kayla Heater, follower of Jesus, wife and mother of 5 children, Christian childbirth educator and doula, and your host of the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, where we share God-centered birth stories, evidence-based birth education, and our pursuit of surrendering our birth plans to God. Let's get started. Happy week of Thanksgiving, everybody. I hope that whatever your plans are, that they are already off to a smooth start, whether you are packing up and traveling, which is what I did for like my entire life until after I got married, or whether you are preparing to host and stay home and get your house ready and get food ready and all of the things. I know for us, I make about half the food and my mom makes about half the food. And then we watch the parade at our house in the morning. And then we go over to her house in the afternoon for like a lunch dinner situation. She's about 45 minutes from us, so it's not too bad. And she's got beautiful land and lots of space for the kids to play and roam. So we always have a fun time going out there. And then we come back to our house for the evening for the kids to go to bed. And we watch Elf together as a family to try and kind of kick off the Christmas season. Except this year we kind of started a little bit early because I could have a baby any day now. I'm really trying to hold him in till past Thanksgiving, though. If you've had a baby before, especially in that fresh early postpartum, you know what it's like. You're in bed and you're resting and you're wearing diapers. Yourself, you and your baby are both in diapers, and all sorts of fluids are coming out of you, and no one's getting any sleep. So, I'd rather just save that for after Thanksgiving. I'd rather enjoy my meal and family on Thanksgiving Day with this sweet little baby on the inside of me still. So prayers for that, honestly. If y'all could pray that I make it to December 1st, I would love that. Obviously, I'm surrendering all of this to the Lord. So we'll see what his plans are, but I have asked the Lord if we could hold off till December. Well, happy traveling. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast as you travel, there and back and wherever you're going, or just maybe while you're cooking your awesome Thanksgiving feast this week. But let's go ahead and jump into this week's episode. When your first labor is 24 hours long, starts with your water breaking and a positive GPS test, and you spend the entire thing in the hospital, what can you expect for your second birth? Well, for Ashleigh, it was basically the exact opposite of that. During her second labor, she experiences 2 days of a start-stop early labor and doesn't know when it will eventually kick into gear. But when it does, she had less than an hour's notice before she'd be holding her baby in her arms. And I'll give you a hint. It wasn't at the hospital or the birth center or at home. This is a 2-part episode. So this first episode is just part 1 of Ashleigh's story, and you'll have to tune back in next week to hear part 2. Well, welcome to another episode of Surrendered Birth Stories. I am your host, Kayla Heater, and I have Ashleigh with me today. And I know Ashleigh, so it's exciting.
Yes.
Ashleigh, take a minute and introduce yourself. Let us know who you are and what your life is like and who we're talking to today.
Well, I'm Ashleigh Jarena. I live in North Carolina. I've pretty much been here my whole life. For a little stint of time, I lived in Florida. Actually, a couple of times lived in Florida. But I've been married to my husband Leonard for almost 5 years, and we have 2 boys, and they're very active and have a lot of energy. And we love Jesus. We love serving the church and spending time with family and friends and just going deeper with people, meeting up with people. And we both love music. My husband, I guess this is kind of like a fun, interesting fact, but my husband used to make Christian rap music, and from time to time, he still does. And I grew up loving dance and being involved in that. And I don't really do that much anymore, except like in my basement or going
Or
to
at
a
my summer dance group. Thank you very
shameless
much.
plug for the summer dance group. And my husband, he also does full time videography. Shameless plug also for Lenny J Media. And I kind of like help him with that. I kind of take on one of our clients is a family member. So I do like the social media content for them and help them out with that. And so we just kind of enjoy like being creative. So
Yeah.
besides, obviously like our faith is what grounds us and what's most important to us. And being involved in ministry and things like that. We just love art and love doing that whenever we can. So,
Yes, a very creative couple
yes.
together.
Yes, yes. We hope I hope at least one of them can like sing or dance
Or
or like
dance or something, or have some
yeah,
kind of
like
rhythm.
yeah, I'm like you guys are going to have to kind of get with the program. So,
They will.
but if not, we still love them. So,
It'll come. It'll come naturally. I think
yeah.
the same thing about my kids all the time. So it'll come.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's dive into your birth
Yep.
stories. Take us back. I know your oldest is 2.
Yes. My oldest
Um,
is about
well,
two and a
two and a
half.
half,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, so take us back. What was it like getting pregnant for the first time?
Yeah. So we got married in 2020, like November 2020, and we waited to have kids. We wanted to wait a year just to kind of like give it some time. And so my husband's from Florida, so we actually lived there. We got married in North Carolina and then we moved to Florida. And so we were there for like 8 months. And then we moved back to North Carolina. And so we started trying for kids in like the fall of 2021. So like a year later, but we kind of like moved and then we moved back and then we were like in a friend's house for a couple months and then we like bought our house and then we started trying. So it was like a lot of movement in that first year. So yeah, we have been trying for like a few months or whatever. And then in January of 2022, I got COVID. I never got COVID like when we were getting married and all the things, but then like 2 years later, I got it. And so then I missed like my cycle after that. Like it was kind of like a weird time as far as like that's concerned. And so then after I missed my cycle, I don't know what kind of like really triggered me to take a test, but I guess because I had missed my cycle, I was like, okay, let me just like take a pregnancy test or whatever. And so I just like took the test on my own like in the middle of the day. It's crazy to think that I can even like do something like that in the middle of the day now with two kids. I'm like, I'd never be able to do that. But yeah, so I took the test and it was positive or whatever. And I'm not like a huge like reaction person, but like it just kind of felt like very surreal or whatever. I was just like in the bathroom like by myself. And my husband's just like he's like out in our like main area, just like talking to one of our friends. And so I just had to like come out and like act like nothing happened. And so it was just kind of weird. Like I was just like holding it in. And then I just like quickly tried to like plan how I was going to tell my husband or whatever. So I set up like this little like letter board with like this. We already had a bassinet because we had I think a family member had given it to us. And so I just like set it up and then, yeah, my husband, he was just like super excited. My husband waited a really long time to get married. And so like he's been waiting on like marriage and family and like all the things. And he was just like super excited. So we just like immediately started telling family and friends. So, and then in early March, we had family coming to like visit us or whatever. And I think we had told them that like the news or whatever. And I actually started to have some bleeding while they were here. And it was like over the weekend. And so I couldn't go to like a OB GYN like during the day, like a regular appointment type thing. I just had to go to the hospital. So we went to the hospital or whatever, and they kinda did like I think they might have done some type of ultrasound. I can't quite
They
remember the
probably
detail.
did.
Yeah, the details are kind of fuzzy, and because I wasn't but so far along, they really couldn't tell me much. Like, they did all that, and I think maybe they saw, like, something, but they just, like, weren't really sure about a lot of things. So then we had set up appointments or whatever at the OB, and so I went in, like, early in the week because this was over the weekend. So I went in early in the week, and they took my, like, HCG levels, and then I had to come back a couple days later so that they could take them again to see if the levels were dropping. So then we did all that, and then I remember just, like, sitting on my bed and just, like, opening the message from, like, the doctor or whatever, and, like, the doctor just confirmed that, unfortunately, we had lost that baby, and I just, like me and my husband, we just, like, sat together, and we were just, like, crying and just grieving, and I think we had already, like, told some people. Like, I was just, like
Yeah.
we had a women's conference, and I remember just, like, telling, like, a couple ladies there or whatever, and, they were, like, excited for me and stuff like that. So and there was maybe some other friends and stuff that we had told. So, it was hard going back to kinda tell them the news that we, like, lost a baby, but everyone was, like, so supportive and just, like, praying for us, and my births are really, like, near and dear to me, and, like, those can be, like, hard moments, but this was also, like, one of the, like, saddest and, like, hardest moments that I've ever had. It's just, like I guess, like, in this weird way, you feel like "Why them?" kinda thing. It's, like
Yeah.
in some senses, like, they didn't get to experience life, which is kind of a good thing because we live in a fallen world, and so you're glad that they don't have to experience, like, all the hardships and things like that, but it's still just kind of like, man, they didn't have, like, this a chance at life.
Right, they missed out on
Um
the good stuff too.
Yes, yes, for sure. And so, yeah, so we just, like, were grieving, and I remember, like, listening to a song or whatever, and I could barely, like, do the dishes, and thankfully, like, my husband, since he does videography and all this stuff, he's usually at home a lot of the times. So I just remember going to, like, sit with him in his office, and I was just crying, and, like, I think my bleeding may have lasted, like, a week, or so, and then after that, we were kind of, like, ready to start again. But during that time that we were grieving, I definitely needed some clarity on just kinda like what happens to, like, unborn babies. Like, I just needed some, like, spiritual perspective, and there's actually a really good book on this, and I think this would maybe be helpful for, anybody just listening. But the book is by John MacArthur, and it's called Safe in the Arms of God, and it's a book, like, completely about, like, miscarriage. I know there's probably a lot of books and stuff out there, but this was just the one particular one, um, that I kinda, like, delved into, during this time because I had heard about people struggling with that idea of, like, where does the baby go, and, like, all this kind of stuff, and I just heard it, like, briefly, like, whenever I was, like, single or whatever. But then, like, when I went through this, it was kind of like, okay, like, I kinda need, like I would like some, clarity or whatever on this. And I think he may have mentioned it in the book, but a passage that was helpful for me during this time is Job 11 through 19, and he's talking about, like he's in the middle of, like, lamenting. I don't know if anybody's I'm sure a lot of people have kind of, like, read through the book of Job or heard about the book of Job, but it's just, God, like, strips Job of, like, everything, like, all of his kids and, like, his livestock and, like, all the things, and so it's just a big long book about his, like, lament before God, and then he has, like, three friends that come and try to, like, console him or whatever. But early on in the book, in Job chapter 3, when he's lamenting, he says, "Why did I not die at birth, come out from the womb and expire?" This is what he's saying, just out of, like, he's, like, in deep grief. He's like, why did I not just, like, die at birth? Why did I not come out of the womb and just expire? Why did the knees receive me, or why the breast that I should nurse? For then I would have lain down and been quiet. I would have slept, and then I would have been at rest, with kings and counselors of the earth who rebuilt ruins for themselves, or with princes who had gold, who filled their houses with silver. Or why was I not as a hidden stillborn child, as infants who never see the light? And so that part where he says as infants that never see the light, that's like, babies who've never been born. And then it says, why was I not hidden like them? Because there, where they're hidden, the wicked cease from troubling, and the weary are at rest. And there the prisoners are at ease together. They hear not the voice of a taskmaster. The small and the great are there, and the slave is free from his master. So it was just, I don't know if for anybody that's like listening, that was just like as I was reading that, just very reassuring for you because it's very reassuring for me in that wherever the place where this baby was, it was like they are at rest. There's no trouble there. There's no hard work. There's no it says the small and the great are there, and this the slave is free from his master. And like Job wishes that he was like this child. Like he's in so much grief that he was like, man, I wish I could be like them.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling like that of like, man, like I'm kind of jealous of the baby. Like they get to go be with Jesus and they're in a place where they don't have to experience suffering. And so I think that just was a helpful chapter passage for me like during that time and kind of like solidified some of my convictions and what I think about all of that. And
Appreciate you sharing that because
yeah.
that's a very specific, resource and verse that people can turn to when they're experiencing miscarriage and
Mhm.
stillbirth. Because it's unfortunate how many people on this podcast have shared their stories of miscarriage. It's
Yeah.
so sad and it's so like I feel like it's getting more and more common. And so to have those resources and scriptures to turn to are really important. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I want to be encouragement or whatever to anybody who's listening. And so yeah, so I'm glad to do that. But um so we didn't know how many weeks I was. This was like early March of like 2022 when we found out that we were like losing the baby, probably very, very early because all I really had was just like, the bleeding or whatever. But we decided to name the baby. We didn't know if it was like a boy or a girl. And so we kind of went with a little bit of a neutral name. So we named the baby Azariah. And Azariah means God has helped. And so it just was like so fitting, for that time and like what the Lord was doing like in our hearts and like just having to lean on him to be our help and like our strength. And so yeah, like I had mentioned earlier, like we started trying, I think, pretty shortly afterwards. And we kept trying for, like a while. And it was, I think we were maybe like 8 months along and we were like kind of starting to be like, man, are we gonna have to like kind of get some help like to have kids? Like, are we gonna have to look into like fertility stuff? Because like stuff that I would read, and I don't know if it was just like generic information, but it was kind of like, the closer you get to a year kind of thing, like wait till you get to a year of trying and then maybe like try to like seek out some help. So we were like getting really close to that point. We were about like 8 months or whatever. But then I found out I was pregnant with our first son. So this was July 31st of 2022. So it took a few more months of trying. And so when I found out I was pregnant with him, I had like my cycles are pretty regular in general. And I think they must have regulated or something after like having the loss. And so I knew I had missed my cycle for like a few days. And so it was a Sunday and I was like, we were driving home and I was like, okay, when we get home, I'm gonna, take a test. And so we came home from church and we were watching a friend's dog. So my husband like went to go take the dog out and I was just like in our guest room taking the test. And so then I like look at it and I'm just kind of like, in a little bit of shock and just rejoicing, just thanking the Lord for just like the life that, he had given. And I just once again like quickly try to figure out how I was gonna plan to like tell my husband. And so we just like started like, of course, he knows nothing. So like we just start like it's like Sunday afternoon, we just start like watching a movie or whatever.
I can't believe you don't tell him. He's in the same house as you and you take this test and he doesn't even know it. Like that blows my mind.
Oh, the next part is really gonna blow your mind. If you think that one little part's blowing your mind, this next part is like kind of crazy. So we're like watching the movie and I'm like, trying to plan. I'm not paying any attention to the movie. I'm just like trying to plan like, how I'm gonna tell him or whatever. And so this was technically like our rainbow baby. That's like, I guess in case anybody doesn't know what that is, it's just like a baby that you have after you lose a baby. They call it a rainbow baby. And so like I was like on my phone, like I was ordering Krispy Kreme donuts, but I was ordering them with like rainbow, like with like sprinkles and like stuff like that. And so I was ordering those, and it's like super expensive to like get something delivered because it's not like I could. We're in the middle of watching a movie. He doesn't know what's going on, so I have to get them like delivered to our house. So it was like kind of unnecessarily expensive for me to just like order these donuts. And so then when they even got here, I kind of had to like sneak out and go get them. And then I'm just like, he's still watching the movie. And I'm just in the our guest room is literally like right next to our room. So he's in our room watching the movie, and I'm like setting up everything and like confetti and like all the stuff, trying to make it all rainbow and like this and that or whatever, and like letterboard. So kind of similar to how I did the first like pregnancy test announcement or pregnancy announcement. And so then I'm in there, and he doesn't know. Like he literally doesn't even really like come out of the room. It's just like to me that part is crazy. Like not just that he didn't know I had took the test, but like he didn't know I was setting anything up in the room like right next
He
door.
was watching the movie. He was
Yeah.
engaged.
Yeah, he was really engaged in his movie. So then I like, set it up, and then I like surprised him and showed him, and he was like, "You're lying," and like all these different things, and just like crying. And so my husband is a little bit more of the like reactionary person where he like kind of cries in the moment. Whereas like for me, I sometimes do that, but I'll cry like when I'm just like in the car, like thinking about it, or play this song plays and I'm like, great, now I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we were like super excited. Um, and I think this time around, obviously with the having lost a baby before, we kind of like just waited a little bit longer to like tell people and stuff like that. So I went to a OBGYN for my first pregnancy, and I kind of just went to the recommended OBGYN, and I think I like had my first appointment when I was about like 6 or 8 weeks, just because of like the previous loss. And I think I had some minor bleeding at the beginning of this one too. So they just wanted me to go ahead and come in, and they checked, and there was a heartbeat, and it was wonderful and like, reassuring and stuff like that. And I went there for about half of my pregnancy, and then I end up switching from an OBGYN practice to more of like a midwife practice.
Hmm.
And I guess there was like maybe a couple or a few reasons for that. Um, at the OBGYN, it was a male and female doctor that could deliver you. And I was like, I really don't want like a male doctor to deliver me like that. Just was like kind of like my preference. And so that was one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to switch. And then I also just kind of began like researching more about like the midwife natural unmedicated kind of route of doing things, and just like talking with friends and stuff. And so I decided to switch to a midwife that my friend had recommended that she had went to. And I would still be like giving birth at like a hospital or whatever. But this practice that I was going to go to now was like completely like female, and it was midwife. And I had heard about kind of like the midwife approach of like they take their time, with their appointments. And, it's just kind of more like, I guess you can feel a little bit more like relaxed and not rushed and stuff like that. So, which I did with this midwife. And she was like a part of like it was a part of a hospital thing or care system or whatever. But she was still like, I guess like happy to like answer my questions and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed like having a midwife. So I still like that approach of just how they take their appointments and how they approach like their patients and stuff like that. I mean, in a hospital environment, it's a little bit different, but I would say there's a maybe a little bit of crossover is like as far as like the care and stuff like that. So yeah, I had a pretty easy pregnancy with my first son. I had a little bit of nausea like in the beginning, and I remember feeling like super tired. Like at the beginning, I was like folding laundry on the I remember like folding laundry on the couch or something, and immediately just like wanted to go to sleep. Like just like right there. And I was just like, I'm so tired. And once I kind of got past a little hump early in my first trimester, with him. Then my second trimester was great. I Both my pregnancies, like my second trimester's kind of been around like the holidays. So it's like kind of nice because I'm like in like the middle, and there's lots of food and there's lots of like all these different things going on. So it's kind of nice. And I'm just kind of like in that like magic middle or whatever.
Hmm.
And so, but yeah, so I had just kind of like pretty normal like pregnancy stuff. Like towards the end of my pregnancy, I'd be like up at night, like eating snacks or whatever, like in the middle of the night because I was just like hungry. And so yeah, I mean, the only thing that really happened with him was towards the end, I found out that I was GBS positive. And so, I mean, I don't want to go into the whole thing of like GBS positive because it's like a whole,
It's a rabbit trail. Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay. So, how far along are you when you go into labor, and how does labor start?
So it was a Wednesday night. We had went to church, and so my mom, I was 38 and 6, and so I was telling everybody at church that, like, oh, it'd be like, I think I was saying like, oh, it'd be funny if I like went into labor today because like this is when my mom went into labor with me, and it's funny because me and my mom kind of have a similar birth story as far as like this first one is very similar to my birth story, I guess. But yeah, so we came home from church and I maybe was doing some like chores or whatever. And then I was like making my way to go like take a shower. And I kind of felt in hindsight, I know that it was probably contraction. Um, and so I maybe felt like a few of these like leading up to this. And so I like got in the shower, whatever, and I felt a few things happening in the shower or maybe like once or twice in the shower. And then I got out to like get dressed and then my water just like broke, like gush of water, movie style kind of thing. Like, and so I just like called for my husband and he's videographer. So he wanted to get everything on camera, but he just like recorded, like talked to the camera just to like say that I was like kind of going into labor or whatever. But so after that, I just like I call the hospital because I'm like trying to figure out what I need to do. And I told them that I was GBS positive. I don't know if that swung their opinion one way or the other, but they just told me to go ahead and like come in.
I was going to say, they said, come right in right now.
Yeah, I can't remember if that like swung. It was just kind of like, like a nurse or whatever. So I don't know. She's probably just thinking like, oh, her water broke, like she probably just needs to come in. I don't know if the GBS positive thing like swung her opinion one way or the other, but thankfully I had packed like 5 days before this. So I was like, all the bags were like pretty ready to go. And I pretty much started having contractions like right away. I know even you have a story of one of your kids where you said your water broke and it took a while for the contractions to come.
24 hours.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's like, I know a GBS positive, like the whole like hospital rules, like they don't want you to go over 24 hours, if like
In
you're GBS
theory.
positive and
Yeah.
your water breaks kind of thing. I don't even think midwives, I don't know what the midwife consensus is on that. I can't remember, but
It depends. Yeah, it just depends on where you are delivering
yeah,
primarily. Different locations have different policies, but
yeah,
um yeah, for GBS, their standard procedure is to give you at least 2 rounds of antibiotics before you have the baby.
yes,
So they want you to come in as soon as possible so they can get those in
yes.
before the baby comes.
When I'm not pregnant, when I can't remember any, like I'm just like I have to really think hard about it to like remember all of that kind of stuff, like all of those little like details. But I did opt to have the antibiotics like this time around or whatever. And so we just get in the car. It's about 11 p.m. when my water breaks. So we get in the car and I'm just like sitting on the towels in the car and we call family and tell them like, we're headed to the hospital or whatever. And the contractions are still pretty mild. Like I'm like talking to them, talking to my mom and Leonard's family or whatever. And so we get to it's about 30 minutes from our house. And so we get to the hospital and I just remember, like, getting out the car and, like, walking up to the hospital doors, and, like, I think at this hospital, they kinda have valet parking, so I don't know if my husband was talking to somebody or what, but I just started, like, walking up to the door, and then I can feel my water kind of, like, starting to, like, leak again, and so I just yelled out something, like, to get, like, somebody's attention, and, they just kinda, like, brought me a wheelchair, and we started checking into triage or whatever, and they were just like asking me all these questions and which, I don't mind. I know that's like a thing. If I was in like heavy labor and they were doing that, I think I would be like maybe like more annoyed. But like the fact that I was just kind of like in early labor, I look back on it, it doesn't necessarily like bother me.
Mhm.
I got in the triage or whatever, and, they just kinda wanted to assess, I guess they wanted to assess, like, how much water I lost? Maybe you can talk about
They
this,
probably
but
wanted to assess whether or not your water actually broke. So they probably were giving you a test to test like the pH levels and stuff and see if it was actually your water or if it was urine, which we know it was your water, but some women it's not their water.
yeah,
So they test
yeah,
everybody to
yeah.
make sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I could see that, like, I think maybe even, like, with my 2nd pregnancy, it was like that where it was like, "Okay, I'm not really sure," like, towards the end. But yeah, for me, the first time it was very clear that that's what it was. So yeah, they had me, like, with this, like, huge pad or whatever. I didn't even know what to do with it. I'm like, "What am I supposed to do with this thing?" And they just had to, like, help me, like, figure it out. So eventually, they, like, get me on the, bed, and they're just like they do a ultrasound, which I don't know if that's, like, a common thing to do in triage.
I've seen some providers do that more recently. It's a basically for them, it's a last minute check to make sure that the baby's head down is what they're
Oh,
doing.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just remember him being, like, massive on the screen, and I'm just like, we can't even see his whole body right now. It's just
Oh yeah.
like
No, when you're at the end, you can't. You can only see pieces of it.
yeah. So, they did all that, and then they just, like, admitted me or whatever, and so we get into the room, and they settle us, and they just are kinda like, "Okay, like, just rest," or, like, whatever, and I pretty much was like I was like, "Okay," and then I just was like, "What am I doing? Like, I need to get the baby here." Like, so my husband, he's just
Just
like,
hanging
sl
out at the
yeah,
hospital
I'm
with the
like
broken water.
I know, I'm like, we need to be, like, trying to have a baby here." So I just, like, get up and, like, my husband's sleeping for a little while. It's probably about, like, 1 a.m. at this point, and, I just get up and I, like, sit on the toilet because I had heard that that, like, helps, labor or whatever,
It
and I
sure
was like
does.
yep, and I was, like, on the ball, and I was just, like, watching the monitors because they had me, like, with the both the heart monitors or whatever on my belly, and so I'm just, like, watching the thing, and, like, I'm just, like, trying to do whatever I can to, like, get contractions going. This was pretty much from about 1 a.m. till, like, noon the next day. This is kind of, like, the saga of just, like, trying different things. At one point, like, I was trying, like, a hand pump and, like, I was, like, walking, and I had a hand pump in my hand walking around the hospital, just, like, trying to, like, do something to get contractions started.
So you were having contractions, but they weren't like active and close together. They were just like spread out and
Yes.
wimpy, more or less,
Yes,
like
so it
mild
was
early stuff.
yeah, it was, like, very mild, early, sporadic, like, labor
Yeah.
contractions, so it wasn't really, like there was no progression, like, they would kinda come and then
So in theory, had you not had a broken water and GBS positive and wanted to do the antibiotics, you just still would have been at home for that part.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just clarifying.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So then what
Um,
happens at noon the next day? Do they give you Pitocin or cuz that's
yeah.
my guess is what they probably suggested. Whether you are pregnant with your first baby or wanting to have a different birth experience for a subsequent delivery, this is the fully comprehensive Christian childbirth course for you, the Surrendered Birth Course. With over 10 years of experience as a childbirth educator, a birth doula, and having had 5 kids myself, almost 6, I have created a course fit for every mama out there who wishes to be fully informed on all things pregnancy, labor, birth, postpartum, and breastfeeding, while remembering to keep Jesus at the center of it all. Our God created a beautiful design for birth, something to look forward to, and not something to be feared. Not only will this course get you prepared for your birth, but it will also get you excited for it. It will answer questions you never knew you had and teach you things you didn't realize were so incredibly valuable and central to the entire birthing process. I've had numerous couples on their second, third, or even fourth babies who've taken this course and said how incredibly glad they were and that they learned so much more than they ever thought they would. With over 12 hours of video content, 5 modules, numerous lessons, detailed PDF printout notes, and endless resources, we dive deep into pregnancy, labor, the risks and benefits of interventions, inductions, immediate and extended postpartum for both mom and baby, everything you need to know about breastfeeding, and basic newborn care. This course covers everything. Once you've taken the course, I am available to you for any questions you might have during a monthly live Q&A Zoom call exclusive to our online course audience, as well as through email. The course is on demand, so as soon as you purchase it, you'll be able to start right away and re-watch any lessons as many times as you need. Whether you are planning a medicated hospital birth or an unmedicated birth at a birth center or home birth, this course will prepare you in every way that you can be prepared. While I understand the desire to take a specific hospital or home birth course catered to your specific birth plans, birth doesn't always go how we plan. And having the knowledge of how birth can go in other environments outside of our plans is essential. Most importantly, I will help you to surrender these plans to God. And in return, the Holy Spirit will provide you with the peace that only He can give. For more information on the course, to read testimonials of others who have taken it, or to sign up for the course, just click the link in the show notes. And lastly, remember, just like we say here every week on the podcast, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands.
I think maybe one person came in the room and was like talking about like inducing or whatever. So that didn't really like throw me or anything. It was just kind of like, oh, okay. Like when you're in labor, you're just kind of like la la la. Like, I mean, it's not necessarily like something you want somebody to tell you while you're in labor, but it just didn't really like phase me or whatever. It was just, and the person that told me was kind of random. Like, I don't even think that this person was like a midwife. It was just like, so I guess it was like very easy to kind of like shrug off. It just wasn't like a big deal that they were even mentioning like induction. This was like during early labor or whatever. So I have been getting antibiotics too. So
Right,
like I
I figured
think
they were giving those every 4 hours.
yeah, so about every 4 hours or whatever. And I remember one time getting the antibiotics while I was having a contraction. But like, so for me, it was like it would burn.
Oh, yeah.
It was like burning and I was having contraction. I'm literally getting poked and the thing is burning and I'm having a contraction right now. Like, so it was definitely a lot to do all that, and I know everybody has to make their decisions about like antibiotics and this or that or whatever. But yeah, so that's just kind of like one little thing that happened during early labor. But before I even went into labor, like leading up to it, at my doctor's appointments, I did opt to like get checked. And so I think 1 week, maybe around week 37, I was like a centimeter and like maybe somewhat effaced. And then the next week, 2 days before I went into labor, I was at 2 centimeters. So going into labor, I was already a couple centimeters dilated, which is nice.
Nice little start.
So I'm at the hospital, I'm in early labor. And then I think maybe around 12 noon, they checked me and I was about 4 centimeters. So I really hadn't like progressed that much at this point, and it was just very typical, like early labor kind of stuff.
Yeah, very typical first labor, water breaking first. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So then at that point, my husband's not a huge fan of like water births. So we didn't want to do that, but they did have like pools and stuff there. So at this point, they like roll the pool in and I like go ahead and like get in. And so since I had the antibiotics, maybe this might be helpful for somebody if they want to know this. And I have the IV thing on my hand because I was gonna get in the pool, they had to like wrap that up or whatever. So
Yeah.
they still allowed me to like get in the pool even with that. So that is like a thing. I don't know. Every hospital may have like their own rules, but that
Yeah, they'll
was
usually still let you get in the water. They just have to make it like waterproof. So you have to get it wrapped or keep it
hmm
out of the water, like wherever your IV is.
yeah. Which can be cumbersome. Like I will say, the having the IV and the getting the thing wrapped and like having the different monitors, all of that is just it's a little much like
Yeah.
for me. And like I said mentioned earlier, like I'm a dancer and like all these things. So it's like, I don't know. I just like to be able to like move. And
Move.
so even being pregnant for me is hard because I'm just like everything, I'm so big and like I just want
I
to
can't
move
move
around.
around. Yeah.
So yeah, so I got in the water at about 4 centimeters, maybe around like noon or whatever. And I'm just kind of laboring in the water, like uncomfortable. But like when I got out of the water, I realized like how much the water was helping me or whatever. But while I was in the water, I'm just like working through the contractions. But then something starts to go wrong with the water. I guess I was asking my husband because I couldn't really quite remember, but I guess like it wasn't staying at a certain level or maybe not staying at a certain temperature, maybe a little bit of,
Temperature, probably.
yeah, maybe a little bit of both. Cause I remember them like dumping buckets or whatever and just to try to get maybe the water to stay at a certain level. And so, yeah, I mean, my poor nurse, she was the best. Like, as far as like my hospital experiences, I only had a problem with like maybe one of my nurses postpartum, but like all the people they were very like they weren't very pressuring. They just let me do my thing. But she was trying to figure out this water thing and I'm like with the tub and I'm like she's not supposed to be doing this. This is not her job. Like she is supposed to be I don't know, like helping me. I just didn't feel like that was her job. I'm like if something's going wrong with the tub, they need to have like maintenance people for that or whatever. But she was like such a trooper about just like everything.
They have since gotten rid of those tubs, just so you know.
Oh, they have better ones or they just don't have them at all?
They have better ones. So those were like mobile tubs that they thought would be convenient. They could push it
Yeah.
into whatever room whenever you
Yeah.
needed it of whoever wanted it. But
Mhm.
they turned out to be way more complicated and cumbersome than they initially thought. So yeah, so now they just have permanent tubs in 4 of the rooms there at that hospital.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the midwives were thrilled. It was much easier.
Yes. Um, so then I think I was in the pool from until maybe like 4. And so then I got out and they checked me and I was an 8. So I really progressed in the
That's
pool. I
impressive.
think when I was in the pool, I started to do nipple stimulation, and this really helped me with my at some point, I figured out that the nipple stimulation really helped me with my contractions and really helped to get them going, like, literally to the point where it'd be like, I knew that if I didn't do it, that they would kinda, like, slow down,
Fizzle
and if I
out.
did do it,
Yeah.
it would help. So, I was doing that, I think, when I was in the tub, so I think between, like, that and, like, being in the tub and doing, like, the stimulation, it really helped me to progress while I was, like, in the water. And so, when I got out and they checked me and I was an 8, I was, like, so happy. So I literally just start crying and I'm just like, "He's gonna be here so soon," and, like, all the things. I was, like, happy crying kinda thing of like, "Okay, I know, like, I'm at the end or whatever." And so but I didn't wanna get back in the pool because of all the issues with it, so I was like, "I'm done with that." Like, I'll just, like I think I just, like, went to the shower. The hospital shower is really small, kinda like
It's
I
very
don't know
small.
why, but it just makes me think of, like, gymnasium, like, middle school, like, just, like, a small, tiny shower, and I was just, like, sitting on the ball, and, yeah, just all the things, just kinda using the water to kind of, like, help with, like, some relief and this and that, and as far as, like, my coping, like, through and when I was in the pool, I would say, like, the contractions started to kinda, like, pick up a little bit as far as, like, intensity and stuff like that. And so by the time I'm, like, in the shower, I can't remember, but I would say, like, they're getting pretty intense in this point. I just kinda use, like, low moaning to kinda, like, cope and work through the contractions, and my husband's sweatshirt he had on, I would, like, bear hug him, and I would, like, pull it, like, 2 different ways, and that's just for whatever reason, that was, like, one of the things I did. Um, I'm not a huge, like, counter pressure person, so that doesn't really, like, help me in my labors. I would prefer, like, that not happening. But yeah, just, like, low moaning and just, like I would just, like, pull things or, like, I had a rebozo, so, like, whenever I was in the pool, I kinda, like, pulled that to kinda, like, just create like, give myself, like, some tension. So just, like, things like that. That's kinda how I was, like, kinda getting through. And then at this point, when I'm in the shower on the ball, um, like the water's kind of like helping me or whatever, and then my husband's kind of like bringing me snacks and drinks and all that stuff like throughout, which is very important while you're in labor. So,
Right.
also when I got out the tub, I was kind of excited, like time wise, where I was at, because I was like, oh, okay, I'm at about like 15 hours. Like he's gonna come soon, kind of thing. I was like, oh, that's not bad. Like, for first time labor or whatever. But yeah, it didn't happen right then. But so
Took a little bit longer.
yeah, just a little bit. So at a certain point, I get out of the shower or whatever, and I remember my room feeling kind of a little bit. It is a good sized hospital room, but like they put the pool right beside the bathroom, so like whenever I was getting out, I remember it like being kind of cramped, and I was like trying to get out, and I'm like 8 centimeters or like whatever, like in all this pain, and like trying to just like get out the bathroom. So that was a little bit like complicated or whatever. And eventually, I think I just kind of moved to the bed, and this is kind of where I just kind of like hit my wall. Like this is like transition or whatever. Like, obviously kind of hindsight, I know that like nobody was telling me that in the moment of like, and I had heard all the things, like I'd researched all the things and I kind of knew how it like would progress and like what it's like when you're in transition. But yeah, so I hit like a real wall, like just like emotionally and stuff like that. Like kind of became like very like animal like or like barbaric kind of, and just like not myself, and just like could not cope with the pain anymore. And so at this point I had wanted to go unmedicated. That was like my goal for this birth. But at this point, I kind of hit my wall, and I was just like, I don't remember requesting this, but they first said, like, let's try doing like fentanyl first. And I know that's like a taboo thing now, but I don't know if back then it was a little bit different.
Oh, no, it's the
Hospital.
same. It's, when they offer it, it's via an IV, like through your IV as a narcotic IV medication. Not like you're illegally doing fentanyl, not like that. It's like
Right,
it's like
right. Because
a
that's where I've
legal
heard
way to
about it.
have it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like the safe, I guess, quote unquote, safe way to
Quote
have it.
unquote safe.
Yeah. So, yeah, so they gave me that at first, and it really did not help me. It just like in between contractions, it kind of helped me to like relax a little bit more, but then I would just like wake up in a contraction and I would be like, this is like worse because I'm kind of getting like this like nice little break, but then it's just like these same like super painful contractions. So then I was like, just forget it. Just like, just give me the epidural, whatever. Honestly, before I don't know what timeline order things are happening in at this point, but like at one point I even just was like, just cut me open, just give me the like C-section or whatever. And like I think the doctors like looked at my husband, and he was just kind of like, no, no, she doesn't want you
She's
to
not
do
being
that. And
serious.
I'm glad he said that, because they might have taken me like, I don't know if like what they do if somebody said, if they're in like intense pain like that and somebody does say that, like if they take them seriously, or they kind of like just give it a minute.
No, they would have given him an epidural first.
Okay, yeah, okay. So, but yeah, my husband was like, "No, no, 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 she doesn't want that," which I'm glad he said that. So, like, my husband's kind of joke too, like, in all of this is like, during my transition, I kind of was like, the Lord to come back. Like, literally, I was just like, my thoughts kind of started to be a little bit irrational too, where it was like, I was like, in my head, I didn't say this out loud, but like in my head, I was like, okay, me and the baby, we're just gonna go and like be with Jesus. Like this is just it. Like we're out. Like that's like how like irrational I was thinking.
Transition makes you ready for the rapture.
Yes, yes, seriously. And so I was like, in my head, I was like, how do my friends do this? Like they're crazy and like all these different things. And like, and so anyways, I just like, at whatever point, I just like asked for the epidural or whatever. And then my nurse is like calling I'm so terrible at saying this word, but the
Anesthesiologist.
anesthesiologist. And so, and then so I'm just like, okay, when are they gonna be here? Like I'm just like asking her,
Oh,
like
yeah.
urgently.
Once you
And
want it, once you say yes and order it, it feels like the most
eternity.
intense, longest
Yeah.
time until they arrive,
Yes. And
even
so
though it's usually only like 10 minutes.
yeah, it was like 5, maybe 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, the anesthesiologist gets there and my husband had to leave or whatever, which I didn't really like care about. And so I was just like, okay. He was just like right outside the door, I'm sure, whatever. And
Yeah.
so I got the epidural. This is about 5:30. I got the epidural and then they were like, okay, we're just gonna relax now. Because it happens
Take a
for
nap.
a while with all of that. And so I got the epidural at 5:30 and then they were like, okay, we're gonna relax for like an hour and then we'll start doing like practice pushes or whatever. And so, and then, but also at this point, my nurses switched. So I had this one nurse for literally like the whole time. And then it was like, I guess she was on like a 7 to 7 shift. So it was like
Yeah.
5:30. So she had to go. And I was just like, I think maybe me or my husband was like, can we just like pay more to stay
Can we
here
pay you
or
to stay,
whatever?
please?
Yeah. She's just like, no, like if I stay more than like 45 minutes longer than I'm supposed to, like I'll get in trouble or whatever. And so we're like, okay. So I didn't sleep. Like, I don't even know why they tell you to try to like sleep during these things. It's so hard to sleep when you're like, I get it. Like, I think it's good if you can sleep, but like this moment particular for me, it was like, okay, I got the epidural, and the next thing is like having my baby kind of thing. I'm like, I mean, I'm gonna try to lay here, but I don't know if I'll go to sleep
Yeah.
kind of thing.
It's also a harder environment to sleep in.
Yes, and so, at, like, 6:30, we start doing, like, practice pushes or whatever, and my nurse that came in next, she was super sweet, and I think she had maybe 1 or 2 kids of her own, and she got, like, a very different version of me at this point, and I was just, like, talking to her, and I was like,
She
you
got the
know,
epidural version of you.
yeah, she got the epidural version, and so I'm just like, "How many kids do you have?" And, like, all these things, and, like, I literally haven't slept in, like, probably, like, 2 days at this point because this is, like, towards the end of my labor, and, so, yeah, so she just starts doing, like, practice pushes with me or whatever, but at this point, I can't really feel the contractions, like, it's just, like, I can't really feel them, so I don't know when to
What you're
push, like,
doing.
to push
Yeah.
with the contraction kinda thing. And then I think, maybe at some point she tried to like we tried to flip me, but my legs were so heavy at this point that it was just like it just didn't really work for me to kinda like be on
Yeah.
my knees or whatever. I tried to like flip over and go to my knees, but then I just end up flipping back. And I think I was kinda like in a reclined position while we were like doing all the pushing stuff. I can't quite remember. I kinda remember being a little propped up, like I wasn't like flat or anything like that. I was kinda like a little propped up on like a bunch of pillows or something probably. And so at a certain point, she's like, this is kind of when like the Pitocin comes in and she like kind of sits on the bed. She wasn't very like pushy or anything, but she just kind of sits on the bed and she's like, I think we should maybe try some Pitocin, whatever, so I could start feeling the contractions. And I think she like slowly upped the dosages.
Of Pitocin?
Yeah. So like started with like a lower strength, I guess,
Yeah.
or a lower,
Dose. Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't realize they started Pitocin while you were pushing. Was probably also to get them closer together, too.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling them or whatever. She was kinda going by they had the monitors, I think, still on me, so I think she was kinda going by whatever the monitor was saying and telling me, like, when to push kinda thing.
Yeah. Well, in my
So,
experience, you probably weren't ready to push then.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he wasn't far down enough for you to feel any sort of pressure for you to push.
Yeah.
So, I would, in the future, ladies, I would wait.
Yeah. So, I opted for the Pitocin, all the things I didn't want at the end, but it's fine. But, I think maybe she upped it, like, maybe, like, one time, and then I started to kind of be able to feel them, and so she kinda started, like, coaching me through it, and it was really difficult. I mean, I would say, like, first time having a baby or whatever, it's, like, kinda hard to know, like, how to push kinda thing. Even if you even like I'm pretty sure I'd done research about it or whatever, but it still can be kind of hard to gauge it like in the moment kind of thing. And especially in my scenario with like an epidural, like blocking all
Yeah,
of
not
like
be able to
everything that
feel.
I'm like feeling or whatever.
So, how long did it take you to push?
Yeah, so from the practice pushes, and then at some point they kind of became real pushes. And she just like called like the midwife. I didn't have my midwife that I had been going to like during my pregnancy. It was just like the midwife that was working at the hospital or whatever. And she was super nice or whatever. And so her and like maybe a couple other people come in, and they were all like a great team. Like my nurse that I had, that was doing the Pitocin stuff, she was really sweet. And then I had like a fiery, like red haired nurse that was like, kind of the football coach kind of thing of like, let's go. Like, and then I just had my midwife kind of sitting, the midwife was sitting there. She was very like calm and content. And like, she was just trying to help everything like stretch out so that I would maybe try not to tear or whatever. And I would say his descent was just like, it just kind of felt like really slow. Like it was kind of like taking a while for him to like come out kind of thing. But I mean, he was good. He was fine. I had a little mirror so I could kind of see. So that really kind of helped me. And it was just nice to be able to see like, when he was born and stuff like that. And so, like, they're just like kind of coaching me, and everybody's like pretty calm and encouraging. It's kind of random, but we had called my mom kind of during my pushing phase. So she kind of like came in with like food or whatever. And I was just
While
like,
you're
what?
pushing?
Yeah, like while I'm like pushing, and I'm like, no, I think I literally like kind of like closed my legs, and I was like, no. And like she just like hopped in and hopped back out or whatever. And I think she just kind of like sat out in the hallway or whatever. I, I didn't, my mom's more involved in like my second birth, but like the first time around, I didn't really have her kind of like in the room or whatever. But like she was kind of there like in the hallway, just kind of listening. So yeah, I mean, the midwife was like, it seems like his head's gonna come, and then like it's gonna take a minute for his body to come. And I was like, oh, okay. And so then I'm just like pushing, and then he, starts like, I guess, kind of crowning or whatever. And at this point, there's really not much pain, like at this point, I'm pretty calm when everything is happening. And he comes out, and his head comes out, and then his body just comes right out with it too. Like it wasn't
Shoots
like how
out.
she said it was going to be. It was kind of just like complete opposite. And yeah, and he was born at, I think, 10:56 or like 10:58. I can't remember the exact time, but yeah. So from the time I got that epidural at 5:30, and then he was born at 10:58, almost 11 o'clock. So that's a pretty long, like pushing, like time or whatever. And so yeah, it was even though it was all of those things or whatever at the end, it was still just one of the most like surreal moments of my life. I was like, it's kind of just like this kid just really came out of me, like kind of thing. And I was just like weeping, and yeah, I was just like crying a bunch, and I think it was just like all the hormones and stuff, and I was kind of like shaking or whatever. And I think they wanted me to kind of like grab him like when he was like coming out, but I just was probably like too out of it. So I think they kind of like did
Put
it
him
for
up
me
on
and then
you.
he was just
Yeah.
like, on my chest or whatever. And he was crying, and he was great. And actually it took him a little minute to cry, and it wasn't super loud or anything like that, but he was good and everything was fine. And it's still like one of the best moments of my life, just like remembering him like coming out, and just like so surreal. Like, I don't think birth will ever not be surreal to me. Like just the fact that the way God created our bodies, and that we produce other humans and that they come out of us. And it's just like, I'll just never like, I'll never not be like fascinated with that. So, and I think he had the cord like kind of wrapped around his neck when he came out, but it wasn't anything like severe. And
Yeah, I'm sure they just slipped it right off.
yeah, they just, in those scenarios, they just kind of slip it off. And he was like 6 pounds, 13 ounces. So he was small, and he was like 21 inches long, and he's still very skinny and lanky and tall. And so he was kind of always like at his appointments, he was like always kind of under the average or whatever, but he was still growing and all the things. And I'm kind of the same way, very just like long and lanky. And so I was just like, he probably just like gets it from me.
Yeah.
So um so yeah.
Okay. So, how did your postpartum go with this first baby?
So thankfully both of my postpartums have been fairly easy. And like I feel like I'm like the like don't throw stones, like
That's
because I
okay.
know
It's
like
good. It's encouraging to hear that it was easy for somebody.
Yeah, and I mean, like, obviously, I've never had a child before, and I'd nannied before in the past, and so, like, I had a lot of experience with kids, but, like, this was, like, obviously around the clock, 24/7, like, so, just going from having no kids to being a parent, that was definitely a transition for me, and it was definitely hard. Like, I loved my sleep, so, like, being sleep deprived was really hard for me, um but yeah, as far as, like, those initial postpartum days, we were sleep deprived, not getting a lot of sleep, and so that was tough, just, like, kinda, like, emotionally, and just, like, I think, like, maybe a weekend, I kind of became, like, a little bit delirious kinda thing of, like, "Okay, Ashley," like, I remember having some friends coming over, and it just was, like, felt like I was kinda getting a little bit delirious. And I kind of would like wake up at like I would I think I like woke up or kind of kept him on a routine like the first couple of weeks until like he was like I knew I think maybe that he was gaining weight, and so then I kind of was just like, all right, I'm gonna let him wake me up. And he did that until he was like 9 months. But
Yep, they do
and
that.
yes. And so, I think looking back on some of those things, it kind of made it a little bit hard. I kind of made it a little bit harder on myself in some ways. But like I quickly like figured out like, okay, I'm just gonna let him wake me up and then like I'm gonna like either double diaper him or I'm not gonna change his diaper. And so, that like made some of the things easier because I think we would just like wake up, change his diaper, do all of this, and like it just kinda gets them a little bit riled up, and so I'm just like, "Yeah, we're just not gonna do
And
that
harder to get him
anymore."
back down. Yeah.
Yeah. And, and so, yeah, but otherwise, as far as his temperament, I mean, even to this day, he's a pretty chill kid,
He is maybe one of the chillest toddlers I've ever
yeah.
met in my life, like, ever.
Yeah, he is. He has his moments because he's in his, like, toddler phase now, so
Yeah.
but, like, for the most part, I really can't complain. He's a really sweet and I'm gonna try not to cry, but he's just a really sweet kid and like, like there's certain things you don't ask the Lord for, but he kind of just like gives them to you and like he knows obviously he knows everything that we think and like all the things and like I feel like when I kind of imagine like my son, it was just like this curly head kid who's just like I just like imagine like my time with him just being like very fun and like this and that. And like he's just like all the things. Like I don't think I ever like sat and asked the Lord for that, but he's just like all of that. And so he is just yeah, he's a really sweet kid. And in my postpartum like one of the things I wanted like after I had him was sushi. So that was like I always have like something that I want like after I have the baby. Like I think they call it there's something that they call it or maybe it's kind of like a push present type of thing.
That's
Um
just your first meal
yeah,
after
like your
you
first
give
meal or
yeah,
whatever.
birth.
And so for him like after he was born I just wanted sushi. So that was like my thing. And so I had some sushi or whatever. And he had a lip tie and a tongue tie, so that was tough. Like as far as nursing, I know that's a big thing. That's even a question that I try to ask like new moms is like, okay, how's the nursing going? Because I know that's like a
Mhm.
big thing, like after moms have babies. Um, and so yeah, he had a lip tie and a tongue tie. And I think maybe like 3 weeks to a month in we just, like, got it released or whatever. It was causing a lot of pain, like, I think maybe on, like, my left side or whatever,
Did
and
that help?
so it helped a ton.
Good.
Like, literally afterwards, I was like the dentist or whatever that did his, release was like, "Okay, how does it feel?" And I was like, "Actually, it feels great." Like like, it's like, completely opposite of painful now. So he was like, "Oh, okay, great." And
Great.
so,
Worked like a charm.
yeah, so after that, the nursing relationship became really good, and I kind of initiated the weaning or whatever, which he did well with. Like anything I did, he just kind of went with it, which was kind of nice for a first time kid. I mean, obviously there was probably some hangups at some point, but like even with the weaning process, like we went on a trip around the time he turned 1, and so I was like, this is it. I'm going to wean him on the trip because that'll be like easier and it'll just be, he won't be like clingy and all the things or whatever. And so yeah, he nursed for like 13 months and then started trying for baby number 2.
I was gonna say, and then shortly after that, you guys got pregnant. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. You can reach me at Surrendered Birth Services on Instagram or email me at contact@surrenderedbirthservices.com. Be sure not to miss an episode by hitting the follow button. Also, we'd love for you to leave a written review of the show so that more people's births and lives can be changed by the love of Jesus and the empowerment of accurate birth education. If you really enjoyed this episode in particular, please take a screenshot of it and post it to your Instagram story, tagging Surrendered Birth Services. If you would like to be a guest on the Surrendered Birth Stories podcast, please click the link in the episode show notes to fill out your interest form. Also, if you're interested in taking my childbirth classes, birth consultations, or having me as your birth doula, please click on the link in the show notes to take you to my website for online and in-person options. Just as a reminder, this show is not giving medical advice, so please continue to see your personal care provider as needs arise. We hope you have a great week. And remember, learn all that you can, make the best plans, and then leave it in God's hands. I am your host,
And then you went out.
Kayla Heater.
Oh, wait, sorry. You're going to have to start over because I think
Oh,
it froze.
oh,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
it
don't know
did
why it's
freeze.
doing this. It's my internet.
It froze for only a second. Could you hear me?
Sorry. I'm
No.
like acting like I'm the director. Cut. Start over.